Morning. All right, third time lucky. Let's see if we can get Britt back on with us. I don't know what's happening with Instagram today. Beautiful, beautiful sunshine coming through here today. Oh,
Anything?
yeah, I can hear you. Yay!
Alyssa, this is wild. I'm so sorry.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. I don't know what was happening. Just gremlins, I think.
Who knows? Exactly. And we know now I'm not an IT pro, so maybe like the refreshing did something.
If all else fails, as we know. It's
Yes.
like 10 a.m. here on Thursday morning, and I'm in the car because I'm usually out at this time. So this is not my usual location for my carnivore chats, but why not? Because
I
I'm getting
love
some
it.
sunshine.
Yes. This,
It's the middle of
this is
it's
great.
winter. It's winter, but we haven't had sun for a while, so I'm happy to be sitting, with a bit of sunshine, which is great.
The best.
How are
I love that. I
you?
know
How are
it's like
you?
8:30 at night here on Wednesday. So you're in the
Yes,
future.
yes. How you doing? Just so everyone knows, Britt and I met recently in the Smoky Mountains at Meatstock in Tennessee, and we spent quite a bit of time having lovely chats, and we shared a cabin, and were having morning chats in our pajamas, and
That's right. So fun. It was so impressive that you came all that way too. Like wild travels for the weekend and so worth it. What
well,
an awesome event it was,
it
right?
was. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I sometimes say to people, oh, when I was in the States, and I have to stop for a minute. I'm like, I went to the States. Like, I went to the States for a week.
So crazy. I know. And
It was
just like,
crazy.
I'm just glad. I mean, that experience in the mountains, I think that that's what really made it, is it was like a truly ancestral type of experience,
Yeah,
and just so beautiful,
yeah.
being up there together and outside, and we'd have dinner and everyone like take their shoes off and we're grounding and it was very cool and
I
so fun meeting you.
oh, same. Like I think I've said to a few people, like the mountains alone, like being in that environment was just so refreshing. But then to be around so many amazing, like incredible, inspiring people, all with the same, similar goals and stories, and just so much to share, but also so much love, like for each other, because we are very similar and we do all have that same energy, and we're all out there doing very similar things. Which is, we've had an experience that's positively changed our lives, and then we're out there teaching other people, to do the same. And yeah, I think
I totally
I think that
agree.
for me to be around people like that in a community like that was just so valuable and rewarding and humbling, I guess. Yeah.
So humbling and inspiring. And I think like when you've eaten like this in this way for a long time, like a lot of us have, it's just like to be around
Yeah.
even that in itself, that it's not weird that everyone's having a steak and butter and there's electrolytes, a bowl of electrolytes on the table and eggs with the yolk. I mean, it's like this is so normal, and I think that that's so refreshing because I'm sure like me and you can relate too of, having to make those edits, when you're with family or with friends or out at a restaurant especially, and never
Yes.
wanting to offend anyone,
Yes.
but I'm definitely unapologetic when I eat the way that I do for the reasons that I do. It's like being in that environment with everyone is just like so cool. Where can you have that?
Oh, absolutely. I think, and again, and same with my events that I hold here in Australia. Oftentimes people say to me, I just feel so isolated and alone. And to come into an environment where everybody feels the same, lives the same, makes similar choices, you just felt like you were part of a big family and you were understood and just accepted, I guess, for those choices that you make. So that's what I felt the same. I actually, it's funny you say about the electrolytes, because I've put electrolytes in my water every day, and but not very many other people I know actually make an effort to do that. But then, yeah, to come there and it's like every morning I was watching everybody fill their bottles up or having electrolyte drinks.
Starting the day,
Such a
we're all
simple,
like, yeah,
such
gotta
a
get our
simple thing.
hydration.
And yeah, of course, to be, we would sit there at breakfast, and like Dr. Sean Baker would just roll out of his room and sit next to us and have breakfast, and we'd be chit chatting about whatever. And usually, I think I don't know if you were there one morning, but he'd just sit down and listen to what all us girls were talking about, and he would, listen, but also get involved. And that was like a really unique experience, which I'm very grateful to Scott and everybody involved in that event to bring it together like that. And next year is going to be even bigger, so I'm so excited to be part of it. Yeah,
absolutely. It's going to be very cool, and just to see it growing in that way and getting the message out. And I think what's really interesting is that, while it was this meat-based carnivore type ketogenic community, not everyone eats and does the exact same things. There's variations of it. And I think that that's also so inspiring, where it removes this like perfect narrative of the best way to live ultimately and to thrive. I think that that's the key message. Like everyone has their rules and reasons for why they eat the way they do or live the way they do, and their lifestyle choices, and unbelievable testimonials that you can really only hear that magnitude, I think, at a conference like that, but I think that was just so inspiring to me, I think, to connect with so many people and just hear different avenues and paths. And like you said, it's just this strong sense of community, and everyone's just with a goal to thrive and to be happy and be well, and like just give that message of wellness, I think, is so inspiring. So it's cool to have, I think, that variation, a perspective,
Totally agree. I once had a comment from somebody who was interested in coming to my recent event, and they were just like, I know pretty much everything I need to about carnivore, and they made a few comments about this and that, and then never booked. And it's like really a great statement you just made about, even for people like us who have been making changes and living this way for a really long time, we always learn something new from hearing people's stories, and they don't have to be doctors for us to listen to what they've got to say, because everyone's got something to share, and everyone's has a different story and has had a different experience. And again, I speak to people about this all the time. Like, everybody is different, and like again you said, everybody is doing things best for them. There's no right or no wrong. They're just doing it the best way for them. And so I think people need to understand that they have to make choices based on their own research and their own feedback and experience, and then you do what's best for you.
100%. And I think, like, I've totally been in that camp before too. Like, I'm sure we all have it some way to be like, all right, tapped out. Like, I'm an expert carnivore. I know everything that there is to know. And it's like information overload of podcasts and YouTube, and thank the Lord for it, right? Because I think that that's like how we learn in so many ways. But for me, meeting people in the community, I mean, from different continents and countries too, it's so cool. And just to have that connection, there's nothing that beats an N=1 for me of just individual experience and testimonies. And I think, like, you can't get that fully, in my opinion, from the podcast, from YouTube all the time, from social media. It's like getting those stories and that connection with people and learning. And also, I think it's like being able to figure out and, edit information and cater it to you, or maybe to clients, right, that you're working with. Because I don't apply everything that I hear to myself. And I think that's key. Where it's like, what, like you said, it's like really figuring out your path, what works. But how many people do you know, or clients you're working with, or people where you're like, oh, interesting that they kind of experienced that and they did this and saw benefit, like that's the power, I think, behind it, of just community and connecting with others. So I totally agree. These in-person events are just like unmatched. And I heard yours is incredible too. So many people were talking about that. So that's a huge undertaking, and so cool that you're doing that.
Yes, thank you. It was a really lovely experience to be introducing myself to a lot of people over there over that weekend who actually knew about my events here in Australia.
So
Which
cool.
was, they'd seen it, they'd heard it, Dr. Kiltz and Bella and, whoever else had come, Dr. Chafee, like, it was really nice to know that you're being acknowledged for, what we're doing all the way over here, which is very
Absolutely.
cool. And I, just so everybody knows, I am currently working on the speaker lineup for Carnivore Live 26. So that is going to be very exciting. I'm very excited
Nice.
about that. I don't want to make this go for too long because
Yeah,
it's evening for you, and I also have to move along at some point. So I want you to tell us a little bit about you, your background, how you got into this space. Tell us a bit about your story.
definitely. So I feel like I have that relatable story that I think the average person maybe when it comes to this ketogenic carnivore world might have. And my thing, I didn't come into this with crazy autoimmune chronic illness, thank God, type conditions. Some of that came later, not due to carnivore, but due to other things. But I struggled with my weight. I struggled with my weight most of my life. I was always a very active kid. My mom, cooked dinner every night. So I can't quite say I was full on standard American diet. But definitely growing up in the period of, demonizing fat and, everything else. And it was cool to pull back and have like meatless Mondays, and stuff like that back in the day, sadly. But I was diagnosed PCOS at 15 years old. I was pre-diabetic throughout my teens. And just really could yo-go. I mean, that's a big thing if anyone, has PCOS and they can understand, you know, just metabolism, metabolic syndrome is a huge component of that in general, but definitely with weight fluctuations. And
Yep.
so, what was interesting for me is that it wasn't difficult necessarily to lose the weight. I could adopt any type of diet and have success, but it was maintaining that and the lifestyle involved to keep it off and then to have that success. So I started in actually my college years with the Cleveland Clinic with an endocrinologist, first doctor ever to actually talk about diet.
Mm-hmm.
And she prescribed a nutritionist for me. And that nutritionist, surprisingly, went the route of low carb. And so that was my first exposure to kind of ketogenic. I was testing ketones even back then. This is, like 15, 17 years ago.
Yep.
And going low carb, I had massive success with it. And I wanted to go back, and I always say this because I think this is like an important message with it. I wanted to go back and be normal, go back to my American sandwiches and chips on the side and living life in moderation, everything in moderation, and those types of things. And when I would do that, I gained the weight back. And same with my symptoms coming back and my hormonal response and everything. And so, I had to learn early on that and accept I was different in a way and be good with that. And a part of me, identifying that was always going back to low carb. I knew that low carb worked for me. And so before my wedding in my 20s, that's what I did to lose the wedding, lose the weight for the big day. And then I'd go back to eating normal. And then it was again going back to low carb. So finally, I really had to understand and learn that this was the lifestyle. This is not about living on a diet or being a restriction, that my diet and anyone's diet is the way that they eat, period.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it was that low carb turned ketogenic, turned carnivore-ish. And I think that that's what's funny too, is, I didn't notice how certain plant foods or fibers or so forth really made me feel until I just kept getting healthier. And I think as the weight shed
Mm-hmm.
off, I ended up ultimately losing 90 pounds. This was several years ago. And just built a lot of muscle. And then it's like everything evolved. But I think what was really important, and I would preach this with, clients I've worked with in the past too, is like start with the one thing. when you start with the diet, and that started making me feel better. The inflammation was coming off, the weight was coming off just with the diet change. I was sleeping better. And then naturally, you just want to start doing more things. I wanted to be active. I wanted to go for a walk. Those things didn't feel like a chore after a while. And it creates a ripple effect, you know, to all aspects of your health. And ultimately, that's how I kind of transitioned accidentally almost into the carnivore space, because I was still leaning on the keto treats and, you know, the sugar alcohols and moderating those things, which were really difficult too, and still kind of having that food noise that I constantly had to sort of battle.
Yeah.
And when I took a lot of those things away, that a lot of that went away for me. And that was a really incredible experience, because I did feel like I was going to have to lean on willpower forever and these types of feelings to not overeat or binge or be an emotional eater, and those things that I've struggled with a lot of my life. So I don't know if I'm trailing a little bit, but that's pretty much my background when it comes to
No,
it.
great. No, no. And I've had experiences like that too. Like I went from paleo and then I went back to standard diet, and then I went to kind of paleo, and then I went to keto, and then I went to carnivore. And even after I'd done my bikini comp and I was in peak condition, I started eating. I started having cheat days once a week, and I would have a bit of sugar and some alcohol, and um, it just didn't make sense to me after that. You know, like I was feeling so good. Why was I wasting one day a week eating and drinking things that make me feel bad, so that I have to start all over again? And I've never really had, I would say, like sugar addiction or food addiction or anything like that. Like even now, if I were to have something that's got, say, sugar in it, because you
Yeah.
know, yeah, I just wouldn't choose carbs at
Yeah.
all. But if I were to have something that had like some sugar in it, I wouldn't then want it the next day. So
Wow.
I feel like I think I've gotten to a point where it's like I could have it once, but I don't need to have it again. You know, and I feel like that's really like you pass that willpower piece, because willpower is a big part of, you know, keto and carnivore, because it's, you know, there's restriction, yes, but I don't want those things anymore that I used to want or used to need, because I just don't feel like them anymore, and I would never choose to have them and feel like I do afterwards. So that
Yeah.
that food freedom and peace part of this equation is like so important for people to understand. The
And
longer
I
you
think
stick
like
to it.
what you're saying about that, I think is so huge, because I think coming from the background of weight struggles always being at like the core of my goals and why I was doing what I was doing, I wouldn't want to have the sugar and the carbs and the things that were bad,
Yes.
because it wasn't going to equate to weight loss. And that was like my mindset for the longest time. And when I finally like let go of, I still had weight loss goals, but I let go of that notion for a second, and I started
That
dialing
way.
more
Yeah.
into, yes, like
Yep.
how are these foods making me feel?
Mhm.
And really, how are they making me think?
Yep.
How am I behaving with my spouse, with strangers? I work in the public, and you know, with that, where it's like all of a sudden I noticed when I would eat garbage food, I couldn't think straight. I had a short fuse and a temper, and I wasn't as kind. And I think that that's like such a wild like
Yep.
realization. But when you can come to that, and then you can start in tune making choices, not that like, oh, this is bad and not gonna, you know, get me to the number on the scale that I want to see. Like let go of those things and make it be about the way you want to feel and how you want to show up, you know, in just your day to day in the world. And I think that
Yep.
that perspective shift is so huge too.
I agree. And look, I know there's a time and place for people to have to stick to what they're doing if they've got a goal or if there's some kind of like health condition.
Yeah.
If you need to do it for 30, 60, 90 days,
Yeah.
which is what I would recommend, like if you're doing it for a reason, then stick to it. But when you get down the track, you kind of do get to a point where there is this freedom to know what works for you, know what doesn't work for you. You know, if you want to, and I again, like there's no prize for being on something for a certain amount of time. You know, like it's okay if you want to add in a little bit of something and
Yeah.
then get back on. You know, like I really like what you said earlier, which was we all make our own choices and decisions. And I could see that at Meatstock. I could see everybody had a few, you know, I don't do it this way. I don't have any of that, but they do, and they're fine, and it's okay. You know,
Yeah.
everybody has their own path, and they have their body is unique to them and how they feel. So I really like that too, because I think it's really important for people to know it's not like no one's going to wrong you if you make a choice, you know, to do things a certain way. So I loved that about what you just said and about being at Meatstock and seeing just what other people are doing. And again, everyone just wants to hear people's stories and their experiences and then apply something to themselves. Like right now, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I have been highly recommended by a few people to stop dairy. Now, when I was doing paleo, no dairy, but I would have rice, you know, and I was in a really good shape, and I lost a lot of weight, and I had no inflammation, and everything was great. I'm the same now, but the thing is, I'm being encouraged to try no dairy for a while. What I'm noticing, if anyone else is interested who's aware of this from a story I posted recently, I will have 2 steaks in the morning. I'll have have a bit of butter, and that'll usually be it. But I was noticing crazy cravings like I haven't had in a really long time. My energy was very low, and I just didn't feel right. So clearly I wasn't having enough fat in other forms.
Yeah.
If you take out butter, which is butter is my biggest source of fat.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. I can see there are studies and there's reasons for stopping dairy. And I'm just, and again, this is just a test. I just want to see what works for me, what doesn't work for me. I want to see if what these people who I trust their judgment, like if what they're saying is true, you know, but I can't pass judgment on it or make any decision if I don't experience it myself.
Yourself.
So I actually added some butter back in recently, just in the mornings, and yeah, it made me feel a lot better. But I'd really like to give it a shot without it for a little while. So I'm going to make some of these fat bombs, and you know, these like made with tallow, and just trying to up my fat in other ways. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on dairy, actually.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because it's one of those things where I feel like it's in this space where people, and like myself included, where I'm like, okay, I graduated from carnivore keto college, and I know everything. And then there's something like this. So I've done dairy-free keto, I've done dairy-free carnivore briefly.
Yeah.
It would be like a month, the type of experiment, kind of what you're talking about. And I joke that like during the time, the only thing that changed for me was my level of sadness because I missed it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. From what I've researched myself when it comes to dairy, it's like, I think that dairy, depending on its form, is a superfood, to be honest. But I think, and I know this is like, it can be like a controversial, so who knows how meta, you know, feels, but I think that from reputable sources, raw dairy can be a powerful nutrient, you know. In many, it's a complete protein. There's a reason why, you know, babies and, you know, start on this, and the fat content, so many things. And then even arguably for the people that have, you know, lactose intolerant, there's a lot of stories that they do really well on the, you know, raw versus the pasteurized dairy. So, and then on the reverse, I think pasteurized dairy can be a massive problem for a lot of people. It's inflammatory. There's a reason why when people do an elimination diet, that they're removing gluten, dairy, like those are some of the foods that they're removing first. So the other thing, so I think, like you said, it's an N=1. I think it's an awesome experiment to see what you notice. Yeah. I know for anyone that struggles with, you know, moderating, like you're a moderator, right? But if you're more of like an abstainer, or you struggle with food volume, I can tend to struggle with that personally.
Yeah.
And so again, depending on your goals and what you have going on, I mean, butter and dairy in itself, there's, molecules that make it up that mimic morphine, and it's incredibly addictive actually for people. So
this is what I've
that can
heard.
be
I don't eat cheese. I don't like cheese. I've never had cheese. I don't drink milk. I hated it from young. Like
yes.
but butter is, and I did try a beautiful like pure cream
Yeah.
recently, and maybe I was probably having a little bit too much of it. That was getting a little bit addictive. So I've been
Yeah.
able to, but I also am able to stop that really quickly.
Right.
And I've pushed it to the side, and the longer I don't have it, the longer I don't even remember it,
Yeah.
but the butter for
Yeah.
me just feels like I feel a lot different having butter
Yeah.
in the morning, but I'm going to remove it and do more of these butter bombs and not butter, fat bombs and more
Yeah.
tallow and, I just want to try it and see how I go. I did know I felt terrible the first couple of days I did it without the butter, but I just need to up my fat
You're,
content and see how it
that's
goes.
what Yeah, you're probably just lacking because butter, I mean, for 1 tablespoon is like 11, 12 grams of fat. So I'm like, for a lot of people that are leaning on that, I was the same way where
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like increasing that or getting that from another form, fattier meat, tallow. I don't know how you feel about like even things like MCT and stuff like that, that crosses the blood-brain barrier, and that gives good healthy fats like that. I think that can be helpful. And again, it's funny. I think it depends on like what your goals are, because for me, when I'm wanting to really think clearer and like that cognitive function
Yeah.
and feeling really good, I like some dairy, but I'm the same way. Not cheese, and cream can be a slippery slope. But butter and ghee, like clarified
Yeah.
butter, right? And maybe actually I take that back, like raw cheese. Those
Yes.
things seem to do great with me. And I also don't consume like milk and stuff, but I can overeat dairy. I can definitely overconsume cheese. When I use those
Yeah.
things as a condiment and have regulations around them, I do better. But from a cognitive function, those things do really well for me. From a weight maintenance and weight loss area, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah,
And
and
that's where
I
I
see this a
personally
lot. I see this also
have
a
to.
lot in people. Yeah, you can't, and especially people who have got weight loss goals, and they think, "Oh, I'm on carnivore. I'm just going to eat a whole heap of cheese."
Yeah,
Doesn't work like that. It
nope.
doesn't work like that. I've never had that issue. I don't eat cheese. I hate it. I can't eat cheese.
Lucky.
Uh,
I wish I hated it, Melissa.
I just never liked it as a kid, and I stopped eating it
Yeah,
at a certain point. And I just never. Uh,
it's good.
Unless actually, I used to eat like parmesan, like on pasta. I don't eat pasta
Mm,
anymore.
I
So,
love Parmesan. And the
you
hard
know,
cheeses are very different than the soft cheeses for
yeah,
me,
yeah,
So it's like
yeah,
brie and all of that.
yeah.
That's not going to help my weight loss goals ever. Never
Mm,
has.
no,
Even
no,
when I had
I
90 pounds to lose, I
yeah,
couldn't have. It's funny in this space. I think I got into the carnivore space when I had about 15 pounds left to
yep,
lose. So I did all of that from a high protein ketogenic type of approach. And so not much of that philosophy changed for me when I went carnivore. I was like, oh, you can't just eat the fatty meat and lose the weight. I've
yeah,
had experience coaching hundreds of clients that a small handful could do that. And
yes,
I was like, okay, and it totally was this perspective shift for me too, because I'm like, this is it. This is the answer. And I was like, oh, wait, there's a lot of strategy involved there if weight loss goals. And I
yes,
think what's an important message too, weight loss goals and health goals are different. And
mhm,
that trips
yeah,
people up sometimes,
yeah, mhm,
So it's like fat loss goals and what I have to do when I'm in a cut look very different if I'm in fight or flight and trying to protect my cognitive function.
yes,
Those are different eating patterns for me personally and
yes.
different goals.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I want to bring up some experiences I've been having lately with kind of elevated cortisol. I've had some personal stresses going on in my life that I've been managing, and I mean, even traveling to the States on my own was a scary thing when I hadn't done it before. Like I went
Yeah,
all that way on my own. I left my kids back here, and I'm a single mom, so it's like it was daunting to go and do that on my own. That just added to
absolutely.
a whole heap of other things that had been
Yeah.
happening. And I had an event 2 weeks before I left, and there was a lot going on. And again, since I've come back and I've removed the dairy, and I have lowered certain stresses in my life. My weight is just dropping off. So I can honestly now look people straight in the eye and say, if you have stresses in your life, if there is something going on, it could even be really like not obvious. If there is something that's kind of living within you that you're unsettled about, it is going to impact the way your body works, no matter what you're eating. Because I was eating pure carnivore, but like I came to the Smoky Mountains, and I had a beautiful week in the mountains, and I was eating carnivore and around amazing people, and then I got back and everything started to change in my body. I'm like, wow. Now I realize how important that is. And since I've been back, it just keeps changing for the better. And I really want people to understand that you could be doing all the right things, but if you are stressed out about something, your nervous system is not settled, nothing is actually going to work, no matter how hard you try.
Yes.
That has been by the way, that has been my experience. It may not be the same for everyone, but I'm pretty certain it has a big impact on the way your body works with all of that, you know?
Massive. And I think like hormones and cortisol and leptin and all these like kind of buzzwords that matter though are like so big right now, where people are like, okay, how can I optimize this? And it's like, well, here's the cheat code on how to optimize hormones and everything else is regulate your nervous system.
Yes.
Take deep breaths.
Mm-hmm.
Get outside because it's peaceful, and being in nature is naturally relaxing.
Yes.
Put your feet in the grass, do all the woo-woo stuff because it does help. But it's like,
I do it every morning. Yep.
Yes. And it's like, and it's being in nature it's peaceful. It's relaxing. Get the AirPods out of your ears. Go for a silent walk. It's painful. Don't get me wrong. I hate it. I want to listen to a podcast, you know, and do that. But when I make myself do those things and slow down, because I'm the type with my ADD brain that I want to do 8,000 things at once and be efficient. And in our fast-paced lifestyle. And I've totally been down a path this whole past year of mast cell activation syndrome, POTS, all of those scary things that I really thought that I had avoided. And I'm going to tell you, I did a ton of remedies. I did a ton of protocols. I went down all the naturopath roads. The number one thing that helped me get relief from all of that was learning to regulate my nervous system, and doing that through things like prayer. And that was it. I didn't have to carnivore harder. I didn't have to do parasite cleanses, and I didn't have to constantly check my house for mold and all of these things that are real. These are real things that affect people. But the biggest thing that makes an impact on us that we don't realize is up here a lot of times. And how much it may not be 100%, but it could be 40. It could be 40% of that fear and anxiety that we create that plummets our hormones, that ruins our thyroid, and that does everything else and has a ripple effect on all of our systems. It's pretty wild when you unlock it.
I'm so glad we're at this point in the conversation, because I have realized more than ever in the last month or 6 to 8 weeks, say, how important that is. And it is, and people will see, like, I'm a carnivore advocate. I'm the host of Carnivore Live, and I am hugely, you know, for this way of living. It is a piece of the puzzle, I would say, these pillars in our life. So we've got movement, metabolism, mindset, and they're all like the arms of a tent, for example. And if one of them isn't in the ground and, you know, strong, your tent is going to fall over. And so you could be doing all of those other things, like you said, but, you know, I recently I've been reading 2 great books. One is the Let Them Theory, Mel Robbins, and then the other one is The Power of Letting Go by a man called John Perkins. And that was highly recommended to me, and I love it. Like, I really, really recommend The Power of Letting Go, John Perkins. And again, it just shows, like, it really just helps us to understand that, you know, we are separate from our thoughts. We can't let our minds control us, you know, and all those little things that you just said about regulating. Yeah. It's so simple as like, you know, feel the ground under your feet, touch something, you know, take notice of what's around you, your surroundings, take some deep breaths, go take your shoes off on the ground, you know, like really, really simple things that we forget. Gratitude, the little things that we forget. And by the way, I'm the type of person that would, you know, do all the right things in the morning, but by the night, and I'm a really fast pace. I've got a million tabs open at the same time, which is why I can successfully run an event like Carnivore Live, because that's positive of who I am in that sense. Yeah. But it can also work against me, where I don't settle. I don't know how to be still. I don't know how to be quiet sometimes. And that's why the mountains were so beautifully rewarding, because how often do we put ourselves in those kind of environments? And I try to personally go into, we've got hills, we've got beautiful nature here where I live. I try at least once a week to get into those environments so that I can just slow down a little bit and be in awe of the beauty around me. And I really encourage people to do that.
So huge. It's so huge. And I think like when you're miserable, whether you're sick, you have autoimmune issues, or you just can't get the weight off, you know, you can't figure out why, you can't stick to what you said you're going to do by the time it's in the afternoon or evening, and you just constantly let yourself down. I mean, it's like, I've lived that life and I can still struggle with that, you know, and I think we all can. And at the end of the day, the remedies, like to your point, are really simple and they really matter. And, you know, the diet, nutrition, I look at that as foundational. You know, if you don't have that, you're gonna struggle. You know what I mean? It's like I believe in supplements, but supplements to me is an insurance policy. If you don't have the foundation right, that's not going to do anything. Like you taking berberine and everything else really doesn't matter if you're eating like garbage or stress. But like the stress component, and I think a lot of us have to get there from a broken place, unfortunately. You know, they say you're either in this space because you're smart or you're sick. And I'm not dumbing myself down, but I was sick. Yeah. I didn't get in here from just being smart. But it's like so empowering when you realize how much control your mind has over these things and your feelings. Your feelings are not real. It's not reality.
Yeah. Well, you need, like, this book I'm reading is like so simple yet so profound, because we do not realize how much noise is going on inside of us. And it's not until you start to slow down a little bit that you get a lot more clarity. And I've been having conversations this week with a number of women, especially some men too. But it seems like this week has been quite a stressful week for people. I don't know what's going on, but that everyone's kind of being faced with stuff. And really often what I've realized this week, and I've told a lot of people, and I'll share it with you too, and anybody watching, is that like in life, we have goals, dreams, visions, and you've probably heard this before, but I like to think of it like, we've put that address in a GPS and we know exactly where we want to go. Now, when we're driving, if there is some kind of unexpected accident or a road closure, we just trust the detour is still going to take us to our end result, that address. Now, why do we stress out so much in life when we detour? And who's to say the detour who's to say we were on the right track to start off with? Maybe we were on the detour and now we're actually on the right track, you know? And so I think this is where we have trust, surrender, faith, that no matter where we are on that journey, if the address is there in the GPS, in our consciousness, right? If it's there, then we're on our way, no matter where we are, you know? So I think a lot of people this week have had some pretty big stuff going on. Sorry, my phone is dying, so I need to just put my light up so I can see you.
I love that you said that though. That is so empowering.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to, if you're a person of faith or you're just regardless of what your, viewpoints are when it comes to that, but it's like, we have to relinquish control a little bit from there's a lot that's out of our control, but
Yes.
there's a little bit that's still in our control too,
Yeah.
and so it's like balancing that, and also to your point, having that trust and that surrender and that faith that things are going to work out. And I think it's so hard when you're sick and when you're miserable and when you feel so broken, and I think a lot of us can relate to that on many different, on a different spectrum. But it's a matter of like, if you're going to continue to go down that road of brokenness, you're going to find brokenness,
Yeah.
and I think that you got to have whatever that is. And that's where those things, putting your feet in the grass, having gratitude for the little everyday things, and being specific about that. I think that's, that's a big Benazati thing that is like always resonated with me when he talks about that vitamin D.
I know. I love that.
Yeah, it's so good. And it's like your mind's going to go to what it's most comfortable with. So if you're comfortable being broken and sick and miserable and fearful, you better believe your mind's going to go there. And if you are comfortable knowing that you've been there before and you've gotten yourself out of it, you lost the weight before, or you got in shape before, or you figured anything out before, you're capable of so much more than you think. But you have to have that faith and that determination. It starts here. When it's there and it resonates, it comes out in your habits, it comes out in your motivation, it comes out in your willpower, whatever you have to dial into, but it always starts up there,
100%. And so this is why a lot of my content is really shifting to more mindset at the moment, because I'm just going through it myself, and I know how important it is, because again, it's an experience I'm having, and I'm having a positive experience making some changes, and I want to share that with people. I want people to realize how important it is. So I'm glad we got onto that at this point. Probably going to have to end it there, but we could talk for ages, and we should probably do it again.
Yeah.
But I'm not sitting in the car.
Yes, this is so good though. Thank you for having me, Melissa. I love seeing you.
Oh, thank you. It's been great to chat and have a conversation like this. And, I met so many amazing people, but you and I did connect, on a different level, I think. And we had some lovely chats and have lots of memories. So, yeah, I appreciate you and you coming on today. So if you're not following Britt, go and follow her. We'll hopefully see you here one day in Australia at one of my events, and we'll keep in touch with you for sure.
Please do. Yeah, I love your mindset content. Diet was a big role in my weight loss journey and in my health journey, but mindset overpowered that for me. So your content's so good, and it just really, it inspires me. And I hope a lot of people start digging into that a little more.
You. I think too, thank you, appreciate that. I'm very real in my content, and anything I share is from my own experience. And so when I am deciding what to post, it's always from my own experience, how I'm feeling, what I'm going through, what I've learned. And so I always be very kind of truthful and real in what it is that I share with people. So I appreciate that feedback, because that's means I'm on track in a way. Yeah,
absolutely. Authenticity, you can feel it. So it's so cool.
Thank you so much. Well, have a lovely evening, rest of the evening, and we'll keep in touch.
I love it.
Thanks everybody for joining us. It was great.
Good to see you, girl.
Bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye.